So today we are taking a look at the Medusa fighter from the Unmatched system of games. Medusa comes from the Battle of Legends Volume 1 set. Medusa is from Greek mythology. She was a creature that had poisonous snakes instead of hair, and if you stared into her eyes, you would be turned into stone. Her sidekicks are harpies, which are bird-like women sent by Zeus that come in on strong storm winds. So to take a quick look at Medusa here, we see that she is a ranged fighter with a health of 16 and a move of 3. She has 3 harpies, which are single health sidekicks. Medusa's ability is, at the start of your turn, you may deal 1 damage to an opposing fighter in Medusa's zone. So not only do you not want to look directly at her, you don't even want to be in the same zone as her because she is gonna be crazy. A map like this on Sarpedon is a good one to go up against her with because you can actually be adjacent to her and not be in her zone. You get into a map like Marmaril, or Marmaril, however we pronounce this. Well, now it's hard to get away from her because you're pretty much like in her zone all the time, man. So we'll take a look here at Medusa's deck and see what all is going on here. We're gonna start with like her big scary card, which is just a printed value of 2, but there's a lot going on with this. Gaze of Stone, as pointed out, the printed value of 2. After combat, if you won the combat, deal 8 damage to the opposing fighter. Oof! 8 damage. Yeah, that is a lot from one card there. But the trick is Medusa has to win the combat, and it is a 2. So since this is an attack, that means it can't win against a 2. So if someone plays a 2 against this, they technically win as the defender. So this only wins against a 1 or if they don't defend. Most of the time, if you're pulling this off, you're doing it when they don't have any defenses. This could technically win against like a regroup, but that'll be about it. So most of the time, this is dealing 10 damage because they take the 2 undefended and then take the 8 afterwards. Now, knowing when to play this is obviously the big trick there. You got to know when your opponent doesn't have any defenses. Medusa has a few things to help her out in that regard. Next card that she uses here, Second Shot. It's an attack of 3. You may boost this attack. So it's a 3 that could get boosted up to something. She's got other 3s in there, so you can make this a 5 or 6 pretty easy. If you think that you don't have much of a chance landing Gaze of Stone, you can drop that in there and ramp this thing all the way up to a 7 since Gaze of Stone has a 4 boost value. That may be something to think of, particularly if you end up landing the Second Shot undefended there and you don't have another action after this to play Gaze. This may be a time to drop it in there and go ahead and get what you can out of it. Of course, you may boost this attack so you don't necessarily have to. So if they defend with something ridiculous, you don't have to. And also you can see what they actually end up defending with before you decide to boost. So that makes it a pretty strong card. That's why you've seen Second Shot show up in some other characters' decks. Hiss and Slither. Well, she does have snakes in her hair, so that makes sense. This is a defense of 4, which a defense of 4 is just good in its own right. Just like a blank 4 for defense would not be a bad thing. But this has an after combat, your opponent discards a card. They discard a card. That is entertaining. We'll get back to that discarding here in just a bit. And we have Medusa Scheme here. A momentary glance. Deal 2 damage to any one fighter in Medusa's zone. So this way you can just reach out and smack them for 2. Nice, good auto damage there. Getting into the harpies, we have a name here that is often applied to the harpies. The Hounds of Mighty Zeus. This is a versatile 4 with an after combat of move each harpy up to 3 spaces. So you definitely have ways to be able to make your harpies mobile and get them running around everywhere. Clutching Claws. We have 3 of these. Your opponent discards a card. Going to talk about this discard again in just a bit. Next, we have this Any Scheme here. Winged Frenzy. Move each of your fighters up to 3 spaces. You may move them through spaces containing opposing fighters. Then return a defeated harpy to any space in Medusa's zone. Now you may be like, hey, this isn't any, so that means a harpy could play it. So if this was like a 2v2, they could go out there and play that when Medusa isn't there. And yeah, while they technically can, they have to return the harpy to Medusa's zone. And since Medusa will not be on the board, they will not be able to replace a harpy without Medusa being there. They would get the movement, so they could still do that, but they can't like bring each other back without Medusa. And this one here, you've got like kind of feathers of the harpies, like making the snake mouth there. That's pretty crazy. Trippy artwork here. Snipe, a versatile 3. After combat, draw a card. You need a little bit of card draw in your deck. Medusa does not have the card draw built into her ability like Dracula, so that's the trade-off for hers not requiring adjacency, that she doesn't get the card draw with it like Dracula. Dash. This is just a nice, good common card here. Versatile 3. After combat, move your fighter up to 3 spaces. And so while this is only a versatile 3, it does have the advantage over leap away and skirmish, and that you are not required to win the combat to be able to move your fighter. And then we're getting into these cards that all the older sets everybody had. Feint. Versatile 2. Cancel all effects on your opponent's card. And Regroup. Versatile of 1. After combat, draw 1 card. If you won the combat, draw 2 cards instead. Okay, so I said I was going to talk a little bit about this discard effects. So we've got these 6 cards right here. Of course, these are all defense cards here for Medusa. These other ones here being versatiles that could be an attack or a defense. Unless you play one of these into a feint, you're going to get that discard off on there. And that is 6 cards that Medusa can discard out of your hand. It is not your choice, and it is not random. So this is the weakest of the discard effects, but just the sheer number of them is a big deal. Well, why is that a big deal? Well, that is because of this card right there. Medusa wants you to get low on cards and start running out of cards in there so that she has a good chance of dropping this Gaze of Stone in there, because she wants you to not have anything. Now, these 6 here, they obviously get to choose what they're putting out there, and they're going to try not to discard defenses, but just because of the sheer volume of this discard, they're probably going to pitch out some defense cards at some point in there. And you can also try to make sure, particularly these Clutching Claws, you can get them out there when they don't have a lot of cards and make them have to throw out some there. Hiss and Slither, you really can't control when they're throwing them out there. It's just going to be when they're attacking. But Gaze of Stone and Hiss and Slither and Clutching Claws are cards that just their very existence makes them a threat that the opponent always has to think about. That if they go up and attack Medusa or attack a harpy, they may get hit with one of these discard effects. They're going to try to make sure that they always have some defenses whenever they end up near Medusa, because you don't want to take that Gaze of Stone undefended. Maybe they don't have a lot of cards there when they ran up to Medusa, and they only had a couple of defenses in hand, and you end up being able to pull something out that they didn't want you pulling out there with that discard. And so between Gaze of Stone and the ability here, if they come up and run up to you and hit you, they're probably hitting you with something that they feel has a pretty good chance of doing some damage to you, because they don't want to take that ping damage of you being adjacent to them if they don't actually have a chance of dealing you something. And they're also going to make sure that they have some sort of defense in their hands so they don't take these Gaze of Stones. So with 3 of them there, you do have the ability to be able to use one of them early in there and just kind of take a shot when you think they have it low there, because you'd still have the other 2 coming around at some point there. You can probably risk using one a little wildly there. You just got to find the right time to put those in there, because once those 3 Gaze of Stones are gone, then people are not as worried about running up to Medusa. You know, they're willing to start taking undefended attacks from you, because the worst you're going to have once Gaze of Stone is gone is second shot, and without Gaze, second shot can only ever go up to a 6. There may be times to try to use these against some sidekicks and wipe them out. I could see if you were up against Little Red, that way you could get rid of the Huntsman before he ever has a chance to heal Red. And then there's some other sidekicks that you could consider that on too. And if you're pretty sure that their sidekick doesn't have a defense card, you could completely just one-shot a sidekick right there. Another thing that makes Medusa really strong is this 3 move, that she's ranged, she's got the 3 move, she's got all the other stuff that's going on there for her with all the discard. That 3 movement on the maneuver is just kind of a final thing that just really makes her really, really oppressive. It's the reason that she's considered one of the big 3, because she is a very tough and strong character there, even if she, whether she gets Gaze of Stone off or not. And so that's a look at Medusa here. Do you have any thoughts that you want to leave? Well, you can go down into the comments section and leave them. You can also go to my channel and take a look at the other videos that I have on here for the other fighters and other unmatched games and matches that I have on there, and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss anything. And so we'll see you around on the next video.